The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's webinar. Top 6 reasons why CXO Software is the top ranked reporting platform for Essbase. We're going to just share the presentation with you. We could just wait one moment, viewers, whilst we just get the presentation to view. Okay, so we seem to be up and running now. That's fantastic. So today's presentation is CXO Software on top of Oracle Essbase. So let's have a look at the speakers in today's session. So you can hear my voice. I'm Alfonso Colonino. I'm a regional director responsible for customers and new business across the UK and the Nordics region. I also have on the webinar today Alexandra Verlan. She's the customer engagement manager. She's going to be speaking in a couple of moments regarding our connectivity to Essbase. And then finally, you will also hear the voice of Jean-Pierre Quadbleg, who is the Sales and Business Development Director for the European mainland. And he's going to be dealing with a case study and also a live demonstration for you today. So let's look at today's agenda. It's going to be a very short 45-minute webinar. There is a question box as part of the webinar command protocol. You can enter your questions at any time. We're going to reserve a Q&A slot for the end of the session, and I'll take a lot of those questions towards the end. So we're going to be looking at the reporting process on Essbase, which is generally a starting position for all of our customers. And then we're going to show you a little bit about connectivity to the Essbase as a database. And then we'll spend a little bit of time on some independent research. And then finally, we'll move into a live demonstration of the solution. So not only will we tell you about the solution and how we connect to Essbase and the value of the solution, but we'll show you a live demo. So if we just move forward and start with the sort of data challenge, essentially. So typically when we think about month-end reporting, financial close process for finance, management reporting, we tend to see this image on most people's desks on a regular basis, which is a static stack of paper, printed tables, charts, because that's the best way that folk tend to interact with these kind of medium. We tend to see them in Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF documentation. So let's look at the actual traditional reporting process using Essbase. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we can actually see a number of different systems, general ledger systems, possibly planning systems, data warehouse, etc. Those are where you, as an organization, are storing all of your data. And when we think about the reporting process, well, we need to get access to that data. And we need to actually then turn it into the reporting as shown on the previous slide. So what we tend to find is that organizations are connected to the Essbase cubes. They're connected to Hyperion Planning. Hyperion Planning tends to be sat on top of Essbase. And as you can see by the graphic in the center there, the two cubes, typically organizations will be aware of the ASO cube and the BSO cube. But from that point onwards, when we think about actually running reporting itself, generally utilizing possibly SmartView into Excel tends to be the preferred method of choice for finance managers. Of course, there are generic BI tools generally in organizations. Some of them are listed at the top of the screen. So we can see, for example, OBIEE, possibly external BI solutions like Tableau, ClickView, Power BI. These tend to be within the organization, but tend not to be used because they can't connect direct to the Essbase environment. And this seems to be one of the stumbling blocks. And also they tend to be IT driven solutions and not finance solutions. And when we're in the Office of Finance, to produce the monthly report pack is a financial requirement. So as we can see, the 3 bullet points on the screen here, the report pack itself is generally very manual in its creation. If we drop the data into Excel, it's a case of then segregating that data into all of the relevant report pages required for management. It's a case of then creating formula and carrying that formula through from previous months. And then importantly as well, we've got the commentary collection. It's either commentaries collected in Excel against a single cell. Possibly the finance team has to then go to the individual business managers, business units, possibly the individual departments within the organization to essentially add context to the report packs. That context is essentially explaining why a variance is above a particular threshold. So it's very manual in its creation of the report pack. The cogs are demonstrating that it's a manual process, and the ultimate output of that is, as we've said, generally a PowerPoint presentation, an Excel sheet, a PDF document, which is emailed out to the management who are making decisions based on that report pack. So the drawbacks of this kind of system and the output is that, well, it tends to be static stacks of paper. It's obviously not dynamic. You can't click on a piece of paper and drill down into a revenue number or look at a direct cost when you see a variance highlighted. You can't obviously search into that information. So it's very cumbersome to use, and there are lots of challenges, and I'm sure a lot of folk listening to the webinar today will recognize this particular process. So what can we do differently? Well, CXO Software, Digital Essbase Reporting, which is simplified, secure, connected and controlled. We have already indicated that you've got your data in your Essbase cubes. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a direct connection from CXO Software directly connected to Essbase. One of the unique and major advantages above all other software vendors in the marketplace. The value of CXO Cockpit is over on the right hand side of the screen, and you can see what we've actually done within the solution itself is automate some of the challenges that I highlighted in the previous slide. So we can automate the production of that month-end reporting. So if you're currently somewhere between working day 10 and working day 15 in terms of your month-end report pack creation, you may then be thinking, well, how do I get that down? I want to get it under working day 10, and that is something that CXO can actually help you with. And if I can just highlight one other value there, which is the commentary collection workflow, something that no other system is able to do in the detail that we're able to do it, and roll up the commentary from the lowest level up to the group level. So let me now move on to talk about, well, that's great having the value of CXO Cockpit, but how do we get to the data? What is the magic that explains how we connect to Essbase? So at this point, I'm going to introduce you to Alexandra. So Alex is going to come in and she's going to take the next couple of slides which show the connectivity to CXO. So Alex, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm in the call. Thank you, Alfonso. So the next slides, I want to explain you how we connect Essbase to CXO. So the Essbase connection to CXO is a direct connector configuration. That means there's no staging area created. We connect directly from CXO to Essbase. The dimensions, the hierarchies, also the alternative hierarchies are picked up from Essbase, and we see them directly in CXO. As you can see from the picture, the Essbase connector is connected to both the Essbase cubes, a SQL repository, and the CXO software application. In the repository, we only store the metadata that is needed for CXO to show reports, but the data still is in the Essbase cube. Whenever a member is added in an entity dimension or any other dimension in Essbase, this will automatically show in CXO. In CXO, we map the different Essbase dimensions. The Essbase dimensions thank you. So the mapping of the Essbase dimensions, the period dimension in Essbase, we all know that the period dimension in Essbase contains both the period and the view. Therefore, in CXO, we would like to split the period dimension so that you can choose whether to look either at the period dimension or at the view dimension. You do not have to change now the both at once. All the other dimensions can be mapped one-on-one from Essbase to CXO. Now let's look at the security in CXO. In CXO, you connect as an end user to CXO. There are two ways to apply the Essbase security in CXO. You can set authentication on Essbase. How does this work? An end user is known in Essbase. When they log on in CXO using the same username and same password, the metadata is filtered in CXO based on their Essbase credentials. So when a user is not able to see details of Europe and only of South America, the metadata is filtered in CXO, and in CXO they will only see data based on South America. The second way to access CXO is by user impersonation. The end user logs into CXO using a different authentication adapter than Essbase. That can be SAML, Windows, LDAP, but also proprietary. CXO connects then to Essbase using the stored admin username and password as the end user's username. These are the two ways to log into CXO when working with Essbase. This will bring us to the top 6 reasons why CXO Software is the top-ranked reporting platform for Essbase. CXO supports both BSO as well as ASO models. We have a live connection from Essbase to CXO. We support Essbase authentication, and we support not only user-level Essbase authentication, but also the group-level Essbase authentication. All Essbase dimension hierarchies, as well as the UDAs, are supported and can be reused within CXO. When we look at our MDX lists, for example, we can base those lists on a user-defined attribute to make a list dynamic based on the setup of the metadata of Essbase. We also support and query optimization for the attribute dimensions. These can be used in CXO as well. In CXO, we work with MDX, and we support MDX for the complex calculations that are needed in reports. So, for example, the calculation of the rolling 12 months, calculation on the year-on-year growth, but also KPIs that you don't have in your source system, that you don't have in Essbase or in planning, but you do want to show in your dashboards. These can be created using cube calculations. We also have MDX lists. These are dynamic lists that you can use for the Essbase hierarchies. So, for example, the ranking, and these can be dynamic, ranking based on the category in my point of view, which can be either actuals or budget. Now, of course, the ranking will then change based on what's selected in the point of view. And as I said in the beginning, because we are connecting live to Essbase, this dynamic list is updated as soon as you add a new member to any of the Essbase hierarchies, because they're dynamic lists. For the next step, I want to go to Jean-Pierre. And Jean-Pierre is going to talk about the independent research and give a demo of CXO. Jean-Pierre, you're there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Alfonso, for the introduction. And it's good to see that so many of you made it out there today to find the time to look at this webinar about Essbase and CXO software. My part will be indeed about two things. Obviously, we can mention ourselves that we believe we have a great product, but it's much more important what other people think as thought leaders among others in the market space about CXO Cockpit. And for that matter, there was some independent research done and presented on Kscope 2017. And most of the audience will know that Kscope is one of the Essbase trade shows on a global basis. So in 2017, John Booth, a well-known Essbase expert, did a presentation on, and we will send these slides afterwards so you can read yourself what John Booth does on a daily basis. But he called his presentation, or he titled his presentation, Essbase Smackdown, which is obviously very American to do. But he really focused on, if you want to have a layer on top of Essbase for visualization, what should you choose? And he compared Tableau versus Oracle BI or OBIE and CXO Cockpit. And he really did an extensive research, and we just highlight some of the slides that he used. If you are interested in the full research, then we can share also the full slide deck that John used. But basically, he compared them in a very open-minded way, came to the conclusion that Tableau is a very nice tool, but it's very pretty, but not for Essbase, and it lacks some visualization, some formatting options. So it's just simply not built for finance reporting from Essbase, which is obviously a lot of our customers use Essbase with financially sort of data sets. So Tableau, nice tool, but didn't really make the cut for, at least for John. OBIE, which comes from the Oracle factory themselves, of course, extremely large in possibilities, extremely wide in possibilities, extremely flexible, but therefore also very dangerous, because there's too much in there and it takes a lot of effort for people to maintain and build stuff in OBIE. He also had a close look at CXO, and he came to the conclusion that it was basically dashboarding with ease. It's very flexible with no apparent limitations versus Essbase, and it's suitable, and that's something that's specifically interesting for our user audience, for finance people to maintain themselves. Obviously, you can also maintain it from an IT perspective, but our customers are really capable of maintaining CXO Cockpit themselves. So we were really pleased with somebody who's an authority in the field to come up with this own sort of research based on Essbase. So it was interesting to share with you that obviously we had a superior integration with Essbase, we were easy to use, and it was the tool of choice for John in this case. And what's also interesting, in 2018, one of our customers, MNG, presented, and they're a very large Essbase user as well, they presented their own research that they did in their selection process towards a dashboard layer on top of Essbase. So this is also something we can share with you if you are interested. And they compared Oracle Financial Report Studio, CXO, Power BI, and Tableau. I don't have to go into a lot of details, but MNG came to the conclusion that on the basis of what they were looking for on their requirements, ease of use, support of multidimensionality, graphical capability, commentary, multi-source, and the ease of creation and maintenance, we ticked all the boxes where the other players had more difficulties getting a tick in the box. And we are very fortunate that M&G chose us as their customer. That bridges me to the next slide before I'm going to go into the demo, because this is something within CXO that we are extremely proud about, is that we are able to connect with a lot of customers on a global basis. So we focus on mainly the US market, on the UK, the Nordics, European mainland. That's our key focus because that's where we have our offices and our partners that support our solution. But we are extremely proud that we gain a lot of customers on an annual basis and a lot of flagship accounts as well, like for instance Facebook, like McDonald's. They're all really large Essbase users, Nationale Nederlanden, all very large Essbase users that embrace the technology of CXO Cockpit because we do something unique for their reporting maintenance and their report building and their report sharing with their community inside these customers. Having said that, not all our customers are based on Essbase. We do service more connectors than just to Essbase. So we also have connectors to, for instance, HFM, to OneStream, to Tagetic, to SAP BPC, and to the new Oracle Cloud products as well for planning and for consolidation. So this is for us really important that we keep growing our customer base, and we have a very high percentage of very satisfied customers because our product is really a niche product, and we really do everything on a daily basis to improve our product and our services towards our customers. Having said that, we're going to spend some time in a live demo, and to do so, I'm going to go to my Google Chrome environment, and we support any browser for that matter. So whether it's Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, or Microsoft Edge, we all support the major browsers in the market out there. And our client, as well as the designer, is a really zero footprint software. So an end user doesn't need to install some sort of Java plugin to be able to work with CXO Cockpit. So without further ado, I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger so you can also see the commenting box at the bottom. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that later on in the demo. So today in the demo, I want to highlight some of the features and functions and requirements that Alexandra specifically highlighted in her piece. So the direct connectivity, what's the use and the advantage of that, the authentication, the Essbase dimensions, calculations, and stuff like that. But I also will highlight some of the other advantages like commenting, like storyboards, printing options, and also the easy maintenance and creation of these dashboards. So if time permits, I will also build some dashboards in front of the audience today. Okay, so let's start with what we're seeing right here. For our demo, in general, we've chosen this as our homepage. And all our customers have different homepages. So you are able to configure a dashboard in CXO Cockpit exactly the way that you would like to share it with your end users. So we're not stuck to certain formats. You are able to kind of mimic exactly what you share with your audience, most likely on PowerPoint, PDF, or paper at the moment. There's two categories of dashboards in CXO Cockpit. There's the free format ones. We're looking at an example right now, and we have the pre-configured templates, which I'm going to share with you later on, which is a combination of all sorts of visuals or tabular reports. But just quickly, what are we looking at the moment? So here, of course, can be your logo. We can customize all the colors to your company's colors. We can even use the RGB code of the colors that your company uses to mimic your house style as closely as possible. On top, the end user sees the menu, and based on who I am in the organization, the menu can change. Obviously, that's based on the authentication coming from Essbase. We have the title of the menu, the point of view, which is built up from the dimensionality from the underlying model. So in this case, this is the year, the period, the view, the entity, and the category. And this all comes directly from the underlying Essbase environment. Then below the point of view, we basically have the report, in this case, 6 tiles, a tabular piece of the report, a more graph or a more insight piece of what I am selecting on the left side, and a graphical representation of the account that is selected as well. So if I would select the, oh, I'm timed out. And by the way, the authentication is done based on single sign-on as well as LDAP, so you can easily offer this to your senior users in the organization because they don't have to remember all their passwords. So I selected the EBITDA account, and then all of a sudden on the right side you see more details on EBITDA and more graphical details on EBITDA at the bottom. In the graphs, I'm able to zoom in by just selecting certain periods and see more details on those specific periods, actual versus the category that is selected in the point of view. If I hover over these elements, I can see the actual data coming from the underlying Essbase source. Obviously, if I change my category here, and again, this just reflects the category that you have in your underlying Essbase database. There can be more categories if you want to show more categories to the end user. Then everything in this dashboard is now comparing actual versus forecast. The interesting thing what Alexandra highlighted as well is that based on the account that we select here, this little graph here is automatically ranked by the top performer from top to bottom. So if I would select, let's say, DSO, for instance, then we'll see that Asia is the top performer and the United States is the lower performer. If we select gross margin, they're still the same, but let me just see, most likely from operating expenses, the ranking will change indeed. As an end user, I can also choose to drill on these entities if I want to, so that's all possible as well. Obviously, I can also drill on the account level on the left side in the tabular piece, and that's very interesting, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that. In this case, on direct cost, we are following the structure from the underlying Essbase model. So if in Essbase something changes, so for instance on total compensation, you decide to add an account like bonus to total compensation as a third account in the drill, then everywhere where total compensation is being used, that bonus component will show up automatically. So that is very important to understand. From a maintenance perspective, CXO will follow the structures and the dynamic setup of your underlying Essbase database. So this means that all the reports and dashboards that are built in CXO Cockpit automatically will show the bonus account as soon as you populate that account in Essbase. And this prevents you from updating manually all the single Excel sheets where you normally would have to update them by adding the bonus account there. So it's set up very dynamically. And obviously, I can also look at salaries in more detail, and again, have the ability to look at South America in more detail, or if I want to look at my budget data on salaries, I'm also able to do that as well. What we didn't mention, but in a lot of detail, but what's also important is that you can have multiple sources feeding one CXO dashboard. So some of our Essbase customers like KLM, they have, I believe, 10 or more than 10 cubes, Essbase cubes, filling their CXO dashboards. So one dashboard in CXO could have data from multiple Essbase cubes, or even from other sources than Essbase. So keep that in mind as well, that we support multiple cubes or multiple data sources in one dashboard. Obviously, if I change the dimensions or the period, then all my data will change. Then all of a sudden, I'm looking at August data instead of looking at September data. And the aggregations are, of course, then 8 months and not 9 months. So that's also possible. I can also, in the point of view, change my entity structure if I have the user rights to do that. So if I want to look at more information specifically for South America, then this dashboard will open up on South America. Having said that, I will quickly change the user. I'm now logged in as myself, and I'm the admin. So you can also see that I have access to the CXO designer, and that I have access to quite an extensive menu of all sorts of dashboards that I can share with my audience, yes or no. But what happens if I quickly log out and change the user profile to, in this case, Oliver, which is our European controller, and I'm logging in as Oliver. As you can see, what happens is that automatically I'm logged in on the European entity. So we follow the security and authentication structure of Essbase. So I only have access to reports that are accessible to me, but also within these reports, I only have access to the European side of the reports. So that's also interesting to see. And I am not an admin as Oliver, so I don't even have the ability to go back and do the admin piece. All right, so let's quickly log out and log back in as myself. Looking at the time as well, what I want to do, share a couple of examples with you of other reports that are available inside CXO, share some commenting, and then quickly build a dashboard for you. So just looking inside the executive menu, we have all sorts of different dashboards that are available, but just let me pick this one in particular. So it's a profit and loss, including a bridge report at the bottom. As you can see, CXO supports also quite nicely the way of creating a dashboard that looks a lot like Excel. You know, rows on the left side, column definitions at the top, all nicely formatted, and we can also see the variances in different colors. So this has a lot of Excel look and feel. But it's very interesting that we can also make this interactive as well. So if I hit the operation income, for instance, you can see that the bridge that is selected at the bottom now looks at operating income, actual versus budget. Obviously, if I want to look at it from a different angle, a different category, then I'll look at it from a forecast perspective. And all of these accounts function the same. As soon as I hit the account, it will show at the bottom how it works. It works for a drill as well. So if I go to professional services, want to look at my software costs, then I'm also able to look at how my software costs are forecasted versus actual, and which of my entities are on par and which of the entities are not. So this is just an example of how you can also look at more tabular-based data. In the P&L, we have several examples, also a fully tabular-based report without any graphical interface at the bottom. See again a nicely formatted account list on the left side using most likely the same column definition that you saw in the previous report, but we have several different ways of creating these dashboards in the multi-column template, as we call this. So in this case, you see the list on the third position, and we have all sorts of possibilities of building specific dashboards that look exactly like the way that you currently are using them with Essbase data in your organization. I want to make the leap to our storyboard technology, because then I can also share some of the different formats that we service. So if I hit the storyboard section of our demo, then you can see that we have multiple storyboards available inside CXO Cockpit. And depending on which one I choose, let's for instance choose the monthly board pack AC, you see that it has 7 different dashboards in there. But if I select the number 1, the demo monthly reporting pack, it has 16 different dashboards in there. And it's just up to our customers how many storyboards they create on the left side and how many dashboards they want to populate these storyboards with. Obviously, you only have to create a storyboard or a book once, and then you can reuse it over and over again for every period. It will automatically update based on the numbers coming from Essbase. So whenever you look at it, it will always be updated with the latest version of the Essbase data. For Essbase customers and specifically, we also have the capability of offering draft users. So those most likely are the people that are early in the reporting process that know that sometimes data is not consolidated yet. So then they can have a sneak preview of the data when it's not fully done. And obviously your CEO, CFO, they can only see the data whenever you release it to them, but it will be live connection to Essbase. And so they do look at the live data, but only when you think it's appropriate that they view that data. So let's quickly play the storyboard. In this case, we can run these 16 dashboards, and it's building up right now. And in the meantime, you can see that here we have all the dimensions of the dashboard that we can also still change if we want to view the storyboard in a different setting. But let's simply play the storyboard, and then it starts playing in the sequence that you just saw in the preface of the storyboard section. So the 16 dashboards are all stuck underneath this little pick list. And from top to bottom, I can just play them one by one and click on the next button. Or I can also go from one to the other by skipping some and go to the corporate summary straight away. So I am free as a user of the storyboard to look at the data in whatever sequence I want. But the storyboard itself, it's still an interactive piece of software. Most likely you will see that the reporting packs that are delivered to end users are static. Within CXO Cockpit, in the storyboard technology, you can still select a different account, look at different data, press on the December column to look at what's going on in the December month in more detail, so you can actually see who's going to make their forecast on the costing side, or maybe I want to do that from a net profit angle, and I can still see what's going on in the December month from any account that I select on the left side. So in my storyboard technology, I am still flexible to look at the data in an interactive way, which obviously also works in this graph as well. So let me quickly just browse through some of the examples that you see here, so you can get a better idea on what's possible inside CXO Cockpit, yes or no. So we have some also line item comments, which will bring me to the commenting in a moment. So it's not necessarily required to put your comments at the bottom. You can also put them on the right side of the screen or in the left, on the middle, wherever you want to put the column. So all sorts of formatting and all sorts of graphs are supported standard within CXO Cockpit. And we can even support these huge sort of tabular reports with a lot of the Excel sort of formatting options that you are used to in your current environment. So let me just leave the storyboard for what it is and quickly highlight the comment functionality. So then I also have 2 minutes left to build a dashboard for you guys. So coming back to the homepage, the commenting piece will be demonstrated from this page as well. And it's a very important part of our software because a lot of our customers like the fact that we have an integrated way of looking at the numbers, but in combination with the data that comes along with the numbers. And that's also always connected to each other. So in normal processes, you see that comments are collected through a copy and paste process in either a Word or in emails, and then somebody needs to copy and paste these comments back into PDF or PowerPoint and making sure that the numbers tie up with the comments. In CXO Cockpit, they're always interacting with each other, because if I select another period, like August, you will see that the comments for this period are just gone. They're not there anymore. So it's really interesting to see how we can combine numbers and data in one screen. But there's much more to it. As the group controller, I can see that there are 3 subsidiaries that have entered comments into our system. And those 3 are United States, South America, and Asia. So basically Europe is missing. So for time's sake, I will not log in as the European controller again, but quickly do this myself. So if I select Europe, I can indeed see that my point of view comments are not there. So to quickly repair that, I can, for instance, copy my comments from a previous period, which is a very neat functionality inside CXO Cockpit. And I can just be clever and just change this into September, and then I'm off the hook for my commenting perspective for this month. So if I would go back to the top entity again, then you will see that all of a sudden I have 4 comments instead of 3. And indeed, my European comments have been entered by me today at this time stamp. So there's also sort of an audit trail for comments to be monitored. Quickly, finally, on comments, but there's much more to it. I can easily copy the comments from my children into my own commenting box as well, and then I'm able to start editing those comments instead of copy and pasting them over from other areas manually. So the commenting functionality is also something that is fantastically organized in CXO Cockpit. I can tell a lot more about that functionality, but I won't. I think finally what I wanted to do is quickly share a view of the backend and build one dashboard for you so you can actually see how easy it is to do that. And I will go through the moves of, giving it a title, webinar test 1. Then it's already connected to the EPM system, so Essbase in this case. I can select a template. So let's select a financial statement template. And then the only thing as an admin, I need to press the OK button. And then it's already loading the template in the back. The only thing I need to know as an admin that I should add content to this template. And the content that I need is a row in our system. And the rows are already available in my demo. If I search on row in our repository of data, then I can select a cash flow row, for instance, or I can select an EBITDA row or a KPI row, any sort of row that I want to. But let's select the EBITDA row, and I can quickly see on the right how that's built up. And if I now produce the report, we can already see that it's building up, and let's just view the report from the front side, that it has a nicely formatted list, and it has all the functionalities already available, and that's really what's very powerful. So if I select net sales, for instance, CXO will understand, because it's set up in your underlying database, that net sales is split up by channel, by customer, by product, etc. So I can also have a look at my net sales on product level already. While the system also understands that if I select direct costs, for instance, this is only being set up on entity level in the underlying model. So it doesn't show a breakdown on customers or channels or on products. So this is a very effective way of building dashboards. And obviously, the commenting box is already there, although this dashboard didn't exist 2 minutes ago. So I'm able to already add my comments there. I'm also able to make it part of a storyboard. So if I select the demo storyboard pack and put it in on the 7th position, add page, then the next time I run my demo reporting pack, you can see that my webinar test report is part of the equation, and that instead of 16 dashboards, I now have 17 in my environment. So everything you saw today, from the front end to the back end, is based on fully standardized software. So let's go and wrap this up. Thank you for your time, but we want to look at some questions. So maybe in the meantime, Alfonso or Alexandra, you can help me with some of the questions that have been asked. So let me just see. I see a question from Ronald about pricing. Obviously, we can talk about that later, and I will contact you personally.
Unmuted.
We also see a question about the timing of an implementation. Normally, that's somewhere between 7 and 10 days because it's all pre-built, and that's why we can implement it really quickly. There's also a question about if this can be run in a test environment. Then we would have to talk about our proof of concept approach. That's also interesting. In 3 to 4 days, we can connect this to your Essbase environment and build dashboards on top of your data and metadata in only 3 days. Another question, can CXO connect to PBCS and ESCS? We can connect to PBCS, yes. We also have a customer in the Nordics already working with CXO Cockpit on top of PBCS, so that's a definite yes. And also, I see a question on user cases for Oracle's cloud products. Yes, as mentioned, we have user cases on top of PBCS. For FCCS, we are currently in the running for a project, but that's not secured yet. So we do have the connector for FCCS, but it's not being in a live environment at the moment. Let me just see if we have some other connecting.
Hello, Jean-Pierre. It's Alfonso here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, we're probably going to have to. We're just coming up to the end of time now, so we've got the questions here. We'll actually answer those privately to those individuals. So I suggest we just pop onto the screen our contact details so that the audience can actually see the contact details, and then we'll close the webinar.
Yep, I will do that, Alfonso. Good idea. So the question and answer section was briefly addressed, and here you can see both our pictures again. So if you want to contact us, obviously you can do that through these details. What we will do, we will share this PowerPoint with you, including our contact details. So if you have any additional questions about, for instance, our proof of concept, about our pricing, about customer cases, please do contact us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. From my side, thank you for your attention. I don't know, Alfonso, do you have any closing words?
No, I'd just like to say thanks very much to all the attendees who've taken the time to join the webinar and also ask a lot of detailed questions, which we will get back to you. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre. We'll close the webinar as of now. Thank you very much.